In today's Cruise Port Captain video, I'm going to tell you or ask you some questions about taking a transatlantic, if it is something for you, and what it looks like to be on a transatlantic cruise. Myself and the first mate, we've done at least 10 over the years. We started out basic because of the financial impact of it. I'll talk about that later. But also, it was just a great way to get to Europe. The first mate's family is from Europe, so it was an easy way for us to get there. If you're new to Cruise Port Captain, my name is Captain Stacy, self-appointed. Me and my first mate, we have been cruising for over 25 years. We started when we were very young, and we just kept going, and we enjoy it so much. We started with a 3-day, and the longest one's been 21 days, and I imagine we're going to be on a world cruise eventually. And we truly hope that our experiences give you in one spot a good idea of how to plan a fantastic cruise so you make the most of your time and your money. It's time to get on our voyage. This is the beautiful Atlantic Ocean, as you can imagine, and you can see the heart there. That is Orlando, Florida, and that is where we live. And if you don't know what a transatlantic cruise is, it is just exactly what it says. It is a way to get from usually the eastern side of the United States to the European market. It's almost impossible to cruise in Europe during the winter because it's so cold and the seas are so rough. So what cruise line companies do is they do what's called repositioning. They reposition the ships that are in America for kind of the winter season and move them over to Europe for the summer season. And you can see from my map that it is a big stretch of ocean from Orlando or from the east side of the United States over to the other side of the world. Now, key things to remember is that transatlantics take different itineraries. So you can see not every transatlantic is a straight shot from the east side of the United States over to, let's say, they end in England. You usually stop along the way, and of course, there's experiences there of other port days. So we've been on transatlantics that stopped in Bermuda, and you can see that. Just a little tiny place there. It's not even big enough to show up as an actual place, but you see the name. So you can see like that distance from Florida to Bermuda is not too far. And we've also done cruises where we started in Florida and we ended in the Azores, which is on the upper side of my ship. Sorry, of my picture. And that kind of tells you that's going to depend on how many sea days you have in a row. And once you kind of make it over to Europe after all those the sea days, then it behaves more like a regular cruise where you're usually 1 day in port, 1 or 2 sea days to get to the next port. And you continue to do that until you end at your final disembarkation. So we love it as a way to cruise, and I'm going to now answer most of the common questions we get, or I think the fears people have about doing a transatlantic. One of the most common questions that me and the first mate get about is that how rough are the seas on a transatlantic? So weather-wise, if you're starting out, say like in the Florida, in April, our weather is already quite warm for people. And as you move north and west, it starts getting colder and it might get windier, it might get choppier. Like because you're going to, I think, what a true spring is. Florida, we're an exception. It's kind of beautiful all year round here. So we get asked a lot about, well, does the weather shake? Is it awful? Is it windy? And yeah, it can be, but what we think happens is people get this in their head that it's going to flip the ship over. Remember the movie Titanic where all the dishes started flying down? They kind of go to extreme scenario that's going to happen on their cruise. It's never happened to us. Doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. Now, I don't think it's ever going to happen like this, where I feel the ship is going to capsize. But it's never been more than just a little stumbling while we walk, or maybe a dish or two falls down. but nothing so much that it still wasn't enjoyable. If it does happen like this, where or not anywhere near this, this is more kind of what ends up happening is this, there is a pretty heavy rocking to the ship. The crew will put out sea bags, so if someone gets sick, then they're readily available. It's not impossible, especially if you're prone to seasickness, but it hasn't been our experience that it's made it a terrible experience. Some days were windier where it was uncomfortable to be outside on the pool deck, so people just tend to stay inside. I'm trying to think of other things that have happened where weather was affected. Mostly it's been that it's just been rainy and people tended to stay inside in more of the indoor areas, or they just stay in their cabin. Nothing wrong with that either. So it's really, we haven't had a bad experience with the weather where it's concerned yet. The other thing about a ship versus kind of maybe land is that you're constantly moving too. So even if you are in bad weather, there's a good chance within an hour or two you're going to sail out of it and you're going to go back to a beautiful day. I would say for the weather too, make sure you are looking at the weather of where you're going to and that you planned for it. So we're about to get on Transatlantic and it's beautiful sunny in Florida. So our spring is gorgeous. But where we're going into Europe, their spring is a little different than ours. So right now, today, it's going to be 85 Fahrenheit in Orlando. In England, where we stop, the high is supposed to be 55 is the common high for April. For a Floridian, a native Floridian like myself, that's very cold. So I need to pack accordingly. I need to not bring all my shorts because I'm not in Orlando. I need to be bringing longer pants, some sweaters, and definitely a jacket that is ready for rain and water, and possibly an umbrella. So those are the big things about the weather. It's never been a huge factor for us. We just kind of alternate our plans for the day, and overall, it's been okay. The most common question we get asked is, what are you going to do in all those sea days? So depending on your itinerary, I think the shortest amount of sea days in a row we've had is 6, and then the longest I believe was 8. So again, it's not the whole itinerary, but it can be shocking to be on a free floating vessel where you don't see land for several days. We ended up loving it. We started off small, so you might remember from the beginning of the video, the first one we went on was 3 days or 4 days. We built up to this to get more comfortable being on a free floating vessel. But here are some things that you can do during those sea days. If you just have to do something, here are things that you can do. So there's games, kind of think of like things if you live in a place where snow, when you had snow days. So usually games are provided. There's usually either a game room or one of the lounges will have games that you can borrow. I actually suggest you bring games with you because people get weird and sometimes they just take them for the whole cruise. I hate that. That's rude. But, they make travel Yahtzee. We take Scrabble Slam with us. That's a fun game. And it's just, really a card deck. So they make all kinds of travel versions. They also do puzzles. So there's like community puzzles. Someone will put out a huge puzzle and everybody will work on it a little bit. That's actually kind of fun because I have seen where you really see the world come together because that's not something you need to talk, right? You can all sit around a table, pull up a chair, and start working on the puzzle. So that's kind of fun. But there's games, absolutely. Another thing you can do is your activities team. They are going to ramp up the activities during those sea days. So this is origami. I've seen that where they teach you how to do origami. I like going to the dinner napkin folding. So when you go to formal dining, they make birds and they make fans, all kinds of fun stuff. You can take a class to learn how to do that. So there's all kinds of activities going on. There's trivia going on, all kinds of trivia. That's very popular as well. But there's always going to be something to do. You can take dance classes, you can take culinary classes. Sometimes they have fees with them and sometimes they don't. But your activities team is definitely going to be ramping up on sea days. So if you want to stay busy, you can stay busy. Or you can completely chill. Pool decks are very popular on sea days. I think this is actually Miami, so it's not giving you what the sea days look like. But in my on especially when it's the warmer side of it, especially if you have folks that are used to cold weather and they get like 4 days of nice weather, we have seen people camped out here all day long. So they grab their pool chair. Now, don't be rude. I've seen people be rude. A lot of people are rude. But grab your chair and sit there for a relaxing day. The crew is there with, featuring the drink of the day. Activities teams sometimes have things going on here too, like there's always some kind of man of the universe contest or strongest woman. But this is one thing to easily do on a sea day is chill. Simply chill, enjoy the sun as long as you can. Something else that you can do is join an aerobics class or a wellness class. Almost all ships, I think all ships now have a gym of some sort. That's one of our pro tips too, is kind of keep your wellness program in place. But if you want to experiment with the classes, they almost always have a boot camp, they always have a spin class, or whatever the latest thing is, a yoga class. Some of these take fees, some of them don't. I found the fees to be minimum though. On land right now, a formal class is about $20 a class. It's the same. I've always found it mean this similar on the ship. But they also have usually treadmills. They're always very popular, and a weight section. So plenty of things to do. If you're not working at home, maybe a sea day is a great start to a program for you. And then finally, you can super chill. When's the last time you've read a book uninterrupted without a device? You can sit around in one of the lounges and read. If you have a balcony and it's great weather, you can read. You could sit in your room because many have couches now or chairs and read. But when's the last time you read a good book? This might be a great opportunity for you. Most ships, too, also have a lending library. So I've read some great books that I would have never picked on land on a ship. So think about that. Just chilling out and reading a book. What a radical idea for the 21st century. And Wi Fi is readily available on most ships now, and it's so much better than it used to be. So if you want to keep in contact with home, you can. If you want to download movies, I have a friend who cruises quite a bit, and he downloads movies and watches them on his device. This though, our pro tip though is be cautious about this because if you're connected 24/7, you may not be getting all the benefits and the beauty of a sea day, but it is absolutely possible in the common areas and even in your room to be on Wi-Fi or your device or reading your Kindle. And of course, you're going to eat all day. This is I would say kind of more at the beginning with the novelty of cruising that we kind of went from eating breakfast to like, okay, we only have 2 hours, so we're going to eat lunch, and then we have 2 hours to a snack, and then we have a couple more hours to dinner. But eating will still be a very big part of a fun sea day to experiment with foods. About to the activities, there's usually a lot of culinary demonstrations, so you get to see the culinary team work behind the scenes. I always enjoy that as well. But you will be eating. You will be eating. So that'll be part of your day as well. And usually on sea days, whether you're on a transatlantic or another itinerary, they usually make the formal nights on sea days so you can take your time dressing up. That's if you do have formal nights. A lot of cruise lines are getting away from a traditional formal night, but some are still keeping it up, or an elegant night, or you have decided to have dinner in one of the specialty restaurants. This gives you a chance to show your stuff in a relaxed environment when it's on a sea day. So those are all the big things to do. The other thing I'm missing, their spa treatments. All of them have gorgeous spas now. Many have thermal areas where you can hang out there for hours and just do nothing and just relax. So really that's what the sea days are about to us, is really more like the vacations we used to have before we started getting so interconnected in the world. Just a way to disconnect from our life, but somebody is still taking care of us. Usually, most ships have over 1,000 cruise members that are just there to make me happy for 7 days. That's not a bad way to live. So, now I'm going to tell you some of the not necessarily bad things, but things that might kind of aggravate you on a transatlantic cruise that may not happen on a shorter itinerary. The food tends to get repetitive because most cruise ships are designed to rotate the menu every 7 days. So when you're on a longer voyage, just kind of be aware of that, things will repeat. It doesn't mean you're going to run out of food, and it certainly doesn't mean you're going to run out of variety, but it just means that they have to repeat things because, it's a ship. They have limited kitchen space, they have limited refrigerator space. We have seen people complain about that, which is just astounding because at each dinner setting, you probably have at least 5 entrees to choose from and a gazillion side dishes. It's just expectation. So get your expectations correct that things are going to repeat because the ships are typically designed for shorter itineraries. With the food repeating, the entertainment could repeat as well. So most ships again are designed for that 7 night experience. So they'll have like a Broadway show, and then they'll have, guest entertainers, and then they'll have kind of the diva show, in a typical dance show. Well, it'll repeat probably. They might do it 2 times. They might have more guest entertainers on, or the guest entertainers might do more than one show. Again, how much entertainment do you get at home? This is where our kind of bottom line is, that how much do we repeat food at home? We repeat what we eat almost every 3 days. What kind of entertainment do we repeat? Well, we hardly ever go to a Broadway show here. So going to the same one twice within 2 weeks, that's a bonus. That's amazing. Um, and I'd say those are kind of the two biggest things that are different on a transatlantic cruise that you want to be prepared for. But those are really the big things for us. To wrap up this video, which tends to be one of my longer ones about transatlantics, here are the great things about being on a transatlantic. First of all, value for the money. If you book it at the right time, you can really save a lot of money on a very exotic voyage. So we typically pay less than what we would pay for a round trip flight to Europe. So for us to visit family, this is really quite effective to get not just the transportation, but then the food and the relaxation for 2 weeks before we hit land again. You do want to consider the cost of coming home into your overall factors of whether a transatlantic is for you. But from a cruise perspective, the value for the money is amazing. The other thing that I had written down here is that we just enjoy the complete relaxation of it. The ability to really connect with each other, without devices, to spend good quality time with each other, which we don't tend to do on land, and to really have somebody take care of us for 2 weeks, as I said before. It's just really one of the few things left in the world where you can totally disconnect and just chill for 2 weeks at a time, or at least a week at a time while you're on the sea. So if are you thinking about a transatlantic? These are the questions you need to ask yourself. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. We're happy to answer from our experience. And as always, if you can like and subscribe, that helps me. So me and the first mate are happy to make more content, but that certainly helps us if you can do so. So are you thinking about a transatlantic? Put it in the comments. Let us know what you are challenged with. We think it's great to try it and hope you enjoy. Bon voyage.